Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. We are pleased to be joined by everyone's favorite Browns fan, is one the only Michael Markoch. How's it going, bud?
Good. How are you doing?
And of course, he also works at Impact and Spartan stuff, and calls games for BTN Plus and all that. So, but for most of Twitter knows that he is a Browns fan and not afraid to show it. Let's get into it. Talk about the big news of the day. Baker is on his way out. He is going to the Panthers for I believe a 5th round pick.
It's a conditional 5th. That can turn into a 4th, I think, depending on playing time or something like that. I don't know what the condition is.
All right. I know you've been saying for months about what needed to be done when Deshaun came in there. Let's talk about that move, and then we haven't had Jan since the Deshaun Watson trade happened, so we'll get your thoughts on that. But first, let's talk about today, the big news of the day. Baker's on his way to Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we had been hearing about happening for about a month. It seemed like it was always Carolina, even going back to the draft.
Yeah.
Everyone said that Carolina thought that Baker was probably better than a lot of most of, if not all, the QBs in the draft. And their interest never wavered. I just think it always came down to the money. Money is what makes the world go around. That's what this was. The Browns are going to pay $10.5 million of Baker's salary this year. So they're going to pay over half of what's on his contract. But I think the key to getting this deal done was Baker is taking a $3.5 million pay cut to go to Carolina. So he, instead of making 18.9 mil or whatever he was making, he's now making 15.5 this year. So out of that 15.5, 5.5 are paid, or 5 is paid by Carolina, 10.5 is paid by Cleveland, and then he can earn back the $3.5 million that he's taking in his pay cut as an incentive in Carolina. But if he does make that money, Carolina pays for it. So Carolina at most is paying $8.5 million this year. The Browns are taking on the other 10.5. The Browns get a conditional pick. To me, it's a win for all parties involved. The win. Browns, Panthers, and I think Baker. I think all three of them got exactly what they wanted, and I think it's a good trade.
And they're playing each other week 1, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's just awesome. Yeah, the NFL knows exactly what they're doing with the schedule makers, and anyone that doesn't believe that, they're just fooling themselves. They do this intentionally. It's the reason that Russ is returning to Seattle week 1. They put Browns and Panthers week 1 because they knew that this was a possibility. So,
this is why this guy's good. And by the way, if any questions I have about the NFL, this is the guy I go to because he knows his stuff. Let's ask about Deshaun Watson for a second. I know that we haven't gotten your thoughts. Well, yes, we have got your thoughts publicly on this, but this is the first time you've actually said this on camera. But
the
whole thing, and now the Browns have to turn to Deshaun Watson. Now that era begins. Obviously, the looming cloud of the suspensions and all the legal stuff and all the settlements and all that is another thing. And who knows what the league's going to do? What do you think happens with all that?
I mean, it's hard to try to predict. It's changing every day. At least it feels like it. It's been quiet for about a week. Last week was the hearing. They did it right before the holiday. He met with the disciplinary officer, Sue Robinson. And, they had their hearing. They said it was over. So their briefs are due, I believe, next Monday, July 11th, excuse me. And after that, then she's going to probably come out with her recommendation, her decision on whether she feels that Deshaun violated the personal conduct policy. And then if he did violate it, to what extent. So it's all changing. We're not really going to know until we know. If you see anything on Twitter or you see anyone with news saying that they think they know what's going to happen, they don't. It's right now, nobody knows. It's just kind of a thing that they're keeping really close to the chest. But I mean, overall, I think I've been seeing, especially now that Baker's been traded, I think a lot of people are like, well, the Browns are going to regret trading Baker. And I don't think they're going to regret anything. Like if if you actually think that they're going to regret something, you haven't watched Deshaun Watson play football. And you can have all of your feelings about him off the field and the things that he's done. I don't want to get into all that. That's all open investigation, et cetera. So I'm not going to try to get into all that, but you can have your feelings about what's happening off the field, but on the field, if you compare Deshaun and Baker, there's no comparison. The Browns would make that swap 10 out of 10 times. And even if Deshaun misses part of the season, they still have him for 4 more years after that. They're not going to regret their decision at all. That Deshaun Watson's the quarterback now, even though he's probably not going to start the year as their QB. He's going to be their QB for the rest of his career, which is something that they've always been looking for. So overall, like I said, it's an ever-changing situation. You can't really believe anything that you see, anything that you hear. It's, we don't know until probably next week we're going to see a decision about how many games he's going to get suspended. So I don't even have an accurate prediction as to what that could be. I don't think it's going to be anything greater than 1 year. I highly doubt he's going to get anything more than that. It'd be unprecedented, especially for a first-time offender like Deshaun Watson is. But I feel that I personally think it's going to be a little less than that. But nothing would surprise me. Absolutely nothing at all.
So if Deshaun Watson does get suspended, first off, who takes over? And how confident are you in the staff that is there?
So if Deshaun is suspended, which is likely, it'll be Jacoby Brissett, who the Browns brought in this offseason to be the backup to Deshaun Watson. They brought him in with the expectation that Deshaun Watson was getting suspended. Like the Browns knew when they traded for Watson, he was going to probably face a suspension. This is not news to them. So they brought in a respected backup in the league, Jacoby Brissett, a guy who can win games in the league. He has won games in the league, and they feel comfortable that in a case of Deshaun Watson not being available for the first 6, 8, 10, maybe the entire first season, he can keep them afloat. He's going to keep them relevant. As for comfort level wise, obviously Jacoby Brissett's not Deshaun Watson. Like he's not. But he can do some similar things that Deshaun can do, just maybe not as well. He's mobile. He can get out of the pocket. He can make most of the throws. There's probably some he can't. He doesn't have as strong of an arm, but overall, he's going to get the job done. People forget when he was in Indianapolis a few years ago, he had to start the whole year when the whole Andrew Luck retiring saga happened. Jacoby Brissett, I believe, had the Colts at 5-1, and then he got hurt, and then the season went downhill from there. But even in Miami, he played pretty well, but that Miami team just wasn't very good. I think he can be okay. If you're telling me you need to have Jacoby Brissett play 6 games or 8 games, I think he could get you to 500. He can get you to 3-3, get you to 4-4, and Sean can take it from there and at least keep you relevant in the playoff race. So I think the core around him is pretty good. I think the Browns are going to have a really good defense this year that can win you some games. So I like their chances of hanging around with Brissett in the mix for as long as they need Watson to be out.
Okay, so now let's go to Carolina. Where do you think, with Baker, now is going to be in a battle with Sam Darnold? Excuse me. What do you see out of that? Is Baker the guy in Carolina week 1?
It's tough to say. If I was a betting man and I had to, put something down on it, I'd probably say yes. I think he will be the starter week 1. And that I don't know. Him and Sam Darnold are going to be competing for the job. Two similar quarterbacks. I definitely think Baker's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. But the one thing that Darnold has that Mayfield doesn't right now, Darnold has a head start on the playbook. He has a head start of relationships with head coach, relationships with teammates. He has a head start on all of that. Baker is going to have to be doing a lot of catching up here in this next month or so. Training camp starts here in about 3 weeks. He's going to be catching up. He's going to have to learn the playbook. He's going to have to do all these things. And he can absolutely do that. It's just, can he do it fast enough and then prove he can do it better than Sam Darnold can? Jury's still out on that. But if I had to say who's going to be the starter week 1, I would say Baker. I just think he's the better quarterback. I think he's going to put his head down. He's betting on himself this year. That's why he took the pay cut. He's got that chip back on his shoulder, and, he can make some magic with that. So I would like his odds.
Okay. So, we asked you a bunch of these prediction things and might as well do it again. since it's been a few months since we've done this.
Yeah.
Okay, best team we're not talking about that's going to do really, really well, and the team that's really going to struggle this year, in your opinion.
So when you say like really struggle, do you mean like a team that's going to be bad, or like a team that we're talking about that's not going to be as good?
A team that we're talking about that's not going to be as good. I should have worded that correctly.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, well, to start off with that, I think I got to start with the Jets, just because I feel like they're getting a lot of love that they haven't necessarily earned. They're one of those teams that has a lot of bright young players that could turn out to be stars one day, but you're putting a lot of pressure on guys like Zach Wilson in his second year to take a pretty significant leap. And then that's all, Garrett Wilson in the wide receiver from Ohio State as his number one weapon. Rookie wide receivers are always hit and miss. They're not all Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. They rarely are. It's a lot of pressure on a team that's in a very difficult division with a much improved Miami team. Buffalo may be the best team in the NFL. And obviously New England just owns the New York Jets. At least they have in the recent, years. So it's a tough ask, I think, for them to finish like second and possibly sneak into a playoff spot. I think they're a 5-6 win team, maybe 7 if the schedule falls their way. But other than that, I really don't think that they're going to go anywhere this season. They're still a few years away. And then, I mean, you said, so the team that we're not talking about?
The team that we're not talking about that's going to do really well and surprise people.
I mean, man, that's tricky because I think there's going to be a lot of teams that, I mean, I would say most of the teams that are going to be pretty good, I think are going to be pretty good. I would say a team that I think is going to surprise people, I'm going to go with New Orleans. I think they're actually going to be okay. I'm not saying it in a way, I don't think they're going to be necessarily a Super Bowl team. I don't even think they're going to win the division. I think Tampa Bay still has the edge in that department, but they're going to get a full year of Jameis Winston, hopefully, as long as he can stay healthy. I think they have the best defense in that division. They have one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. New head coach and Dennis Allen. They had a lot of nice pieces. Michael Thomas is coming back. They had Chris Olave. They got a new left tackle, I believe, to replace Armstead, who they lost in free agency. I mean, it's all gonna ride on Jameis. That's everything to them. But I think that they can surprise some people, and I would not be shocked to see the Saints playing some playoff football.
Okay. Where does Jimmy G get moved before training camp?
I don't think so. Because now that Baker's moved, especially now to Carolina, I don't think that there's necessarily a place for him. Really, there's only one team in the NFL that I think needs a quarterback that you could say the spot's open, and that's Seattle. Yep. And the only thing with Seattle is they're in the same division as San Francisco. San Francisco's probably not going to trade Jimmy G to a division rival. They're just not going to do that. But in the case of San Francisco potentially releasing Jimmy G, I think Seattle could then go sign him and pick him up to play starter for a year. But honestly, I think Seattle is trying to lose to get one of the top quarterbacks next year. I think they want CJ Stroud. I think they want Bryce Young. I don't know which one they want, but they want one of those two. And I think they're willing to be pretty bad to get down there.
Well then, it'll be interesting to see what goes on up in the Pacific Northwest.
Of course.
Let's, okay, so we made these predictions. We're not going to predict the whole playoffs because we did that last time. But anything changes throughout that? Are we still, I don't know, I forgot who you said last time was going to do it. Give me your no, it's not way too early. It's still way too early, but way too early. NFC.
It's not way. It's just way.
Yes. Yes. Give me your way too early NFC, AFC championship, Super Bowl, and then the champ.
Ooh, okay. So, man, I got to play through this quickly in my head. Man, AFC championship. Okay, I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here. I like Buffalo, for one. I think this is Buffalo's year. I think they're going to get over that hump. I don't know if it'll end up beating Kansas City. I don't really know what'll happen there, but I like Buffalo. I think they'll be in the title game. And I would say my second team, I'm going to get a little crazy here. I like the Chargers, and I like the Chargers a lot.
Hmm.
I think they have one of the best constructed rosters in all of the NFL. When you're talking about Justin Herbert, who is going to be an MVP candidate here pretty soon if he isn't already. I really love the pieces they've added on defense. You got J.C. Jackson. They got Khalil Mack this offseason. The Chargers are going to be a problem. I don't know if they're going to win the division. I think that might be a stretch. That is a really good division, but I could see them sneaking in as a wild card and then making some serious noise out on the road. So I'll go kind of out on a limb. I'll say the Bills hosting the Chargers in the AFC Championship game. On the NFC side, I mean, it's really just a few teams. I mean, really, there's the Rams, who are obviously the defending Super Bowl champions. You got the Buccaneers with the ageless wonder Tom Brady, and then you have the Packers, who have Aaron Rodgers still, but no Devontae Adams. It's kind of a transition year for them, so I wouldn't really know how that's going to look particularly. But I think those are probably the only three teams that have a legitimate shot. Maybe Arizona too. But I'm going to go with, I'm going to say the Rams get back there. And I'll say that I'll go with Tampa Bay. I think it's going to be Tampa Bay and the LA Rams in the NFC Championship game. And I'll say that's going to be hosted by the Rams. So I'll say that. And then going to the Super Bowl, I'll take Buffalo out of the AFC. I think they're the best team in the NFL. I think they have the best roster. They might have the best quarterback. They have everything. Buffalo is a phenomenal team. I think this is the year they finally get over that hump, as I said. And then in the NFC, I'm gonna roll with the Rams here. I'm gonna take them to get back to the Super Bowl, beating Tampa Bay once again. I just think their roster it's insane. I mean, they added Bobby Wagner this offseason. I don't even know how. You still have Aaron Donald. Your offense is basically all coming back. We'll see if they re-sign OBJ, who probably won't be able to play till November, but he might be able to help them down the stretch exactly like he did last year. So I'll take the Bills and the Rams in the Super Bowl. And then if I had to pick, I'll take Buffalo to win it all. So
yeah, it's hard to repeat. We haven't had that happen since Tom Brady was with the Patriots back in 03 and 04. Was I believe the last time to do it that happened. So
yeah,
be interesting to see. One last thing I want to ask you about. Expectations for, I know you talk about the Jets, but I want to talk about the Steelers a little bit. Where are we at with them?
They're a really hard team to get a read on. And I say this again, coming from a Browns fan, I don't like the Steelers. I never really have. But I respect how they run their organization. They're really well run. They have arguably the best head coach in football. I think Mike Tomlin's that good. But, they have the fourth best quarterback in the division when Deshaun Watson plays. Yes. Jacoby Brissett, I guess you could make an argument. I don't know. But when Deshaun Watson plays, they have the fourth best quarterback in the division. End of story. And that's not going to get you very far in this league. You have the worst quarterback in your division. And that's not to say Mitchell Trubisky or Kenny Pickett's going to be bad. It's just they're not as good as those guys. Those three guys are special. And none of the two guys Pittsburgh has is special. They're going to be returning a great defense. Obviously, re-signing Minka Fitzpatrick to a max extension, picking up Miles Jack in the offseason was, I think, a really good, low-tier move. They just signed a D tackle the other day, Larry Ogunjobi. He's going to be with them this year. So their defense is going to be really good, as it always is. But it all comes down to their quarterback play. I think, offensively, Najee Harris is going to take a big step up. I think he's going to have a good season. They have the weapons on the outside, and Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. They got Freiermuth at tight end. It's a pretty good roster. It's just right now the quarterback's the issue. I don't think they have quarterbacks that are going to go win the game against these other AFC teams. I don't see Mitchell Trubisky out-dueling Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Deshaun Watson. I don't see them doing that. So unfortunately for them, that might mean a below average season for them, but Mike Tomlin will find a way to get them to 9-8. You can almost count on it.
So never count out the Steelers. All right, Michael, thank you so much for talking about all the hot topics today. Michael will be on with us throughout the NFL season too, so it'll be fun.
Of course. Thanks for having me.